Okay, good afternoon to you all, and a very warm welcome to this afternoon session on Wednesday. I am Professor N. Prabhu. I am a professor in the Department of Metallurgical Engineering and Material Science here at IIT Bombay. And I think I met most of you except for one or two students who were absent during the Monday dinner. Right? Most of you I think I met. I'm also a faculty coordinator of the Student Mentor Program here at IIT Bombay. And my presentation would be, of course, mostly on Student Mentor Program at IIT Bombay, and also I'll be talking about other aspects as well. Now let us proceed and see what is the Student Mentor Program. Now Student Mentor Program is a perfect example of students' involvement in activities which promote institutional objectives. Now what are some of the institutional objectives? First institutional objective could be mentoring new entrants into the various academic programs at IIT Bombay. That is one institutional objective. Mentoring academically weak students, right? They may be senior students but who have run into academic difficulties, and mentoring them is another institutional objective. Mentoring students with language difficulty, language that is a medium of instruction in IIT Bombay is English. So students with difficulty following English. Now that is an institutional objective, mentoring them is an institutional objective. Providing teaching assistance to the different courses, right, for effective instruction. Now that is also an institutional objective. Encouraging extracurricular activities among students is another institutional objective. Helping students prepare for placement and internship and career, that's an institutional objective. Providing a platform for the students to interact and help in their personal and professional growth is also another institutional objective. Of course, this is not a exhaustive list of institutional objectives, but I am giving you a fairly large list of institutional objectives. Now, when you look at these institutional objectives, the first question that may come to your mind is, how can we promote these institutional objectives in our institution where there is already a shortage of faculty members, right? Now, you see, in IIT Bombay, what we do is we collaborate with the students and involve them in these activities. And in some sense, you see, even in IIT Bombay, the faculty to student ratio is 1:15. And ideally, the faculty to student ratio should be 1:10. So in some sense, yes, we too are short of faculty members. But what we do is we collaborate with the students and involve them in these activities so as to promote institutional objectives. Now, Student Mentor Program comes under the broad theme of multiplying faculty efforts through faculty-student collaboration. Now, there are several other examples that I am going to cite later on as we proceed, but Student Mentor Program is a perfect example of this, multiplying faculty efforts through faculty-student collaboration. So, what is a faculty-student mentor program? It's a faculty-student collaborative model which has been developed here at IIT Bombay, and it aims to provide effective support system for the students in need. Now, of course, if you look at this, aim is to provide effective support systems for the students in need. Now, how old is the Student Mentor Program? Student Mentor Program is about 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. How old is our institution? IIT Bombay is 60 years old, and soon we are going to be celebrating the Diamond Jubilee. So, therefore, does it mean that we did not have an effective support system before the Student Mentor Program? Well, the answer is no. We did have an effective support system before the Student Mentor Program, and that system was called the faculty host system. Now, under this system, every new entrant into our various academic programs, they are assigned a faculty host. So much so that as soon as the student arrived on campus, even before the student arrived on campus, on the admission letter itself, we used to mention who is the faculty host for that student. So when he arrived on campus, he knew exactly whom to interact with. In fact, on the very first day, during the orientation day, the students were impressed to develop a close rapport with their faculty hosts. Now for the students, this was really a boon, because to them, the faculty host system provided a home away from home. Now you can understand why this system could not be continued. When this system was prevalent, we had something like about 250 to 300 students entering the undergraduate program, and about 100 students or 150 students maximum entering our postgraduate program. So in all, we had something like about 500 students entering our academic programs. Now clearly, now you see the number of students, our undergraduate student strength, the number of incoming undergraduate students is about 1000, and number of incoming postgraduate students is also another 1000. In fact, probably slightly higher than 1000, and the total number is 2000. So clearly we cannot have a faculty host system the way it used to operate. And what did we do? We collaborated with the students and built a support system wherein senior students under the guidance of faculty members would help the new entrants to make this smooth transition to the campus life here at IIT Bombay. So with this sort of a brief introduction, I'd like to give you an outline of what I'm going to be presenting here, a background and evolution of the student mentor program. Then we shall see why the student mentor program is required, how the student mentor program team is organized, and what is the kind of interaction that exists between the mentor and the mentee. Of course, please note here, there is no such word as mentee in the English dictionary. In fact, the word that comes closest to it is protege. The person whom you are mentoring is actually a protege. It's not really a mentee, but then protege is a French word. Perhaps you are not too comfortable pronouncing the word protege, so we continue to use mentee here. So the kind of interaction that exists between the mentor and the mentee, and the future of the student mentor program, I shall briefly talk about. Okay, now coming to the background and the evolution of the student mentor program. You see, our student mentor program started off as a very informal arrangement, and this was at the behest of the Dean of Student Affairs, Professor U.B. Desai, who is now currently the Director of IIT Hyderabad. And at his behest, an informal arrangement was put in place, and this informal arrangement was primarily to combat ragging, which was prevalent during the turn of the century. Now this informal arrangement soon evolved into a full-fledged program under the guidance and vision of Professor Vikram Gadre, whom you have all met, who was the first faculty coordinator of the student mentor program. And of course, thanks to many students who volunteered and took on many leadership roles as well as mentoring roles in the student mentor program. So this is the student mentor program that I'm going to be discussing, the one which has evolved. Now quickly give you a quick bird's eye view of the student mentor program. You see, the student mentor program has got many different wings. The one wing is the Institute Student Mentor Program. Now this serves as a channel for interaction between the incoming undergraduate students and the senior students of IIT Bombay. Incoming undergraduate students, so please note that, Institute Student Mentor Program. Then we have a Departmental Academic Mentorship Program, which we call as a DAMP. Now this serves to provide academic mentorship to junior students who have run into academic difficulties. So DAMP is primarily meant for those students who have run into academic difficulties, and they are not necessarily the new entrants, they could be senior students as well. Then we have a preparatory mentorship program. This is primarily for providing mentorship to students in the preparatory program. Now consequently, with large number of IITs now, we hardly have any preparatory students anymore. So the numbers of preparatory students has dwindled. So I'm not really going to be discussing the preparatory mentorship program, but ISMP and the DAMP, we will of course discuss that. And please note that DAMP, the Department Academic Mentorship Program, did not start at the same time as our Institute Student Mentoring Program. In fact, this was started much later in 2006 in Electrical Engineering Department under the guidance of Professor H. Narayanan in Electrical Engineering Department. Professor Narayanan would guide students who are running into academic difficulties and was very instrumental in turning around the academic performance of these students. Soon the word spread around in the institute, and students from other departments would also go to Professor Narayanan and seek his help because they have run into these academic difficulties. Now soon this DAMP, as we know it today, affected quite a few success stories of students who had reached a point of no return, that is, students whose academic performance had gone down to such abysmal levels that they were going to be asked to leave the institute. But once they were enabled through the Department Academic Mentoring Program, they started doing well on all fronts, including the personal front as well as academic fronts. Of course, I shall discuss more about the DAMP as we proceed. But first, let me tell you the other wings of the Student Mentor Program. The Institute Student Companion Program, or ISCP. Now this guides the new entrants into our master's program, Institute ISCP, and Institute Research Scholars Companion Program, which is primarily for our doctoral students, so that it provides them a platform where they can interact with each other, and it promotes their personal and professional growth. So here is again I'm coming back to the outline here. So we are going to discuss now why this student mentor program is required. Before we discuss that, let us see what are the issues faced by the new entrants into our undergraduate program. New entrants into the undergraduate program. Now there are several issues that the students face when they enter our undergraduate program, and I have classified those issues broadly into 4 categories. The first category is issues related to academics. Now what are those issues? Well, some students find it difficult to get accustomed to the IIT Bombay rigor, the academic rigor, and the stiff competition that they face in the class. You see, most of the students who join IIT Bombay, they have been toppers in their respective schools and colleges, and when they come and join IIT Bombay in the undergraduate program, they find that the competition is very difficult, very tough, and it is not always possible to top the class, right? So some students find this to be an issue when they join the undergraduate program. The second issue, of course, not actually related to academics, but it has a bearing on academics. The second issue is managing innumerable extracurricular activities along with academics. Now what do I mean by extracurricular activities? Activities such as social activities, sports activities, cultural activities, technical activities, and these activities are held year round at various levels, that is the intra-wing, within the wing level, inter-wing level, between the wings of the same hostel, inter-hostel level between the different hostels, and also inter-IIT level between the different IITs. So these innumerable, there is a plethora of activities which are held around the year, and it is important for the student to balance his involvement in extracurricular activities as well as in academic activities. Of course, you have been here for quite some time, at least you have spent some 2 to 3 days here, and you would have noticed that if you have taken a walk at midnight, right, if you have taken a walk around the campus even at midnight, you would see that the ground lights are on, you see people playing football, you see people playing cricket, hockey, middle of the night, at midnight I am talking about, 12 midnight. You would also see people practicing their music, people practicing dance lessons at midnight. So you say this is a very, we have a 24/7 campus, and there are innumerable extracurricular activities which are held around the year. So it is important for the student to balance his and not get too excited about these other extracurricular activities. I'll come back to this a little later. Now there are also issues related to emotional well-being of the student. What are those issues? Being able to build relationships of trust with his peers. Now, of course, for most of us, it probably is not very difficult. We can probably go up to a stranger, shake hands, and discuss as to what are the chat a while and discuss about each other's welfare. But for some students, this is an issue. They find it very difficult to go and build these relationships of trust with their peers because they're mostly introverts. They would not like to mix. That could be an issue for some students. Being able to overcome the feelings of loneliness, sometimes it creeps in because some of the students who join IIT Bombay in the undergraduate program, they have just left the house for the first time, and they need to overcome these feelings of homesickness and missing their loved ones. That is an issue, at least during the first semester. Then being able to make independent decisions for the first time in their lives. They are called upon, when they join IIT Bombay, they join the hostel, they are called upon to make these decisions for the first time in their lives. Now how severe it can be, I will give you an example. Of course, this is a very small number, but then this program exists for that small number of students who face difficulties. See, there was a student who used to consistently miss our 8:30 class, and then at the behest of his mentor, he decided to seek help from our counselor. So he went to the counselor, and the counselor asked him as to why is it that he is missing consistently the 8:30 class. And then his reply was, well, there is nobody to wake me up in the hostel. Now that really surprised the counselor. The counselor says, okay, if there is nobody to wake you up in the hostel, well, you have an alarm clock on your mobile phone. You set your alarm and get up in the morning. The student said, well, it is not possible. I find it is not possible, he said. Then gradually upon probing further, it emerged that the decision as to what time the student gets up was always made by the mother before he arrived on campus. At home, it was his mother who was making the decision as to what time he will be getting up and what is going to be scheduled the next day. So he had never taken the decision himself. I mean, that is the problem that he was facing, as to what time to get up and what is going to be scheduled the next day. But you see, there are some students who do find this to be an issue, and those are the issues related to emotional well-being of the students. The third category of issues are issues related to environmental adjustment. The students are making a transition from a safe and secure environment at home. They are making a transition into a more demanding and unrestricted way of life. See, at IIT Bombay, we have a very unrestricted way of life. There is no restriction as to what time you get up. There is no restriction as to what time, or whether you take a bath at all, or there is no restriction on when you go and come back, or when you sleep, or when you go and play. As I said, it's a 24/7 campus, and sometimes students get very excited about this. Okay. The second issue could be getting used to the hostel life in general and the roommate in particular. The students, every incoming student, new entrant, is assigned a roommate. So, and of course, he has no control as to, he is not going to select who his roommate is going to be. So, getting used to the hostel life in general and a roommate in particular. Now, how severe this problem can be was that a couple of years back, there was a parent who was arguing with our dean and saying that she was arguing as to why her son was being paired up with another student who had a very low JEE rank. Now, of course, the dean had to tell her that JEE ranks cease to have any meaning once the student is admitted into IIT Bombay. Of course, the JEE ranks are meant for you to help you to make a decision as to which branch you require. But there is no, we are not, this ranks by themselves will not have any meaning once you join IIT Bombay. So therefore, the students have to get used to the fact that there is a roommate who is coming from a different background and who has a different way of thinking, a different approach to life. He has to get used to that fact also. Managing this anxiety and excitement, the lows and the highs, managing the anxiety and excitement associated with living in a new environment. That could be an issue for some of the students. And the fourth category of issues are related to the language of instruction. And as I said, the language of instruction here at IIT Bombay is English. And many of our students have not had a formal training in English language. They come from vernacular colleges where and mostly where the medium of instruction is Hindi. And when they join IIT Bombay, they find it difficult to comprehend and converse in English. Now, of course, that is not the only problem. You see, what happens is when they find it difficult to comprehend English, the lectures become difficult to follow and increasingly unpleasant to attend as the semester progresses. And what happens is when it becomes increasingly unpleasant, they stop attending lectures, and consequently their academic performance drops, goes below the threshold level. But even that is not such a big problem. The problem is that this poor academic performance is compounded by the loss of confidence and loss of self-esteem. So that is where the problem heads towards. So there are these issues faced by the new entrants. So what do we do about this? Well, we first of all prepare the new entrants. We make the new entrants aware of the challenges before them, and we tell them, well, there is no reason to be alarmed. Several of your senior students have also faced these kind of difficulties, and they have successfully overcome those difficulties. So this is what we tell them on the day of the orientation. And at IIT Bombay, we believe that the importance of academics lies in how well it allows the student to develop into a confident individual. And the motto for the student mentor program is that every student is capable of putting in his or her best, and we believe this firmly, that every student is capable of putting in his or her best, and it is important for the system to work with the student to make this happen. Okay, so now let us see what we do in the student mentor program. So what is student mentor program? Again, quickly, it's an academic and a social support system, in particular for the new entrants. It is for all the students, but in particular for the new entrants. It works towards motivating the students to excel in both academics as well as non-academics. It encourages the new entrants to make the most of the stay here at IIT Bombay. And this is a program which comes directly under the Dean of Academic Programs. This program is not a voluntary program. It is not run as if students who are available in the evening, please come and help. Not like that. Nor is this a part of our students' gymkhana. It is a program, it's a full-fledged program which comes directly under the Dean of Academic Programs. I'll come back to this point a little later. But again, why support system? Because students come from varied backgrounds, they need help, they require help in managing this transition into a new campus, in handling the cultural and language differences, in succeeding in not so familiar semester evaluation system. Again, students are not so familiar with semester evaluation system. Most undergraduate students have been toppers, and as I said, they are all surrounded by high achievers and the competition is very stiff in the class. The postgraduate students also require some help, because the postgraduate students who have spent considerable amount of time in the workplace, right, now they are making a transition to a demanding and a competitive academic environment which exists at IIT Bombay. So they also require some kind of a hand holding when they join the IIT Bombay. So what are the objectives of the student mentor program? First is, of course, to help the new entrants make a smooth transition to the IIT campus, and towards that end we believe that the first semester is very crucial, and if during this time the student has a mentor, then it would be of immense help to those students. The second is to provide a platform where the students can interact with their seniors, interact with each other, and where we can promote their personal professional growth. A mentor who has been part of the system for a long time can help the new entrants with focused academic inputs, provide positive role models, and thereby reduce and eliminate the effect of wrong influences. This is another important objective. See, one of the wrong notions that new entrants quickly catch on to is that if they are not good in academics, they have to be very good in something else. This is one of the wrong notions that they gather very quickly. In fact, immediately after the first round of quizzes or after the first mid-semester examination they face, and they see that, you know, their performance is not really at the top of the class, but they are somewhere in the middle, then they feel, okay, I am not excelling in academics here because the competition is very stiff, maybe I should excel in something else. And that something else could be something like playing tennis. Well, I should play tennis and excel myself. Well, there is nothing wrong in that, except that they tend to now put academics as the last priority. They give lower preference to academics and start devoting all their time to playing tennis. You know, there is a very nice way in which Professor Gadre explains this to the new entrants. He says, every social activity, every sports activity that you undertake, every cultural activity, technical activity, assign a number 0 to those activities. But how about the academic activities? You assign the number 1. Now, as long as you give priority to academics and less priority to all other activities, the value increases, because now you place the 1 before the zeros, and therefore your value increases manyfold. But however, if you are going to give last priority to the academics and first priority to sports, culture, etc. activities, then what happens? The value still remains 1. So this is how we try to impress upon the students that, well, you are here primarily for academics and that you should give first priority to academics. Okay, so this is how the student mentor program tries to inculcate this right attitude right from the beginning, And when I say right from the beginning, I'll discuss that as to when this interaction starts. But to quickly tell you what are the other objectives of the student mentor program, the other objective is to quickly identify the general problems of the student community and bring them to the notice of the authorities, and then monitor the situation as per the suggestions given by the authorities. In some sense, yes, the student mentor program also acts as eyes and ears of the institute. Coming to the objectives of the DAMP. So far we talked about the institute student mentor program, wherein we are counseling or mentoring the students who are coming into our undergraduate program. Now we are talking about the DAMP, that is a Department Academic Mentorship Program, which provides mentorship to the students with academic difficulties. Now, as I said, we help the students cope with their academics, extra academics, and personal problems. Any students who have run into academic problems, of course, their academics has gone off track. But you see, many a time we see that it is not just the academics which has gone off track, it is also their life which has gone off track. Now, when I say life has gone off track, I mean their routines have gone off track. The routines such as what time they will be getting up, it is not very clear. If you look at the routine of these students, you will find that sometimes on some days they get up at 3 in the morning, some days they get up at 11 in the morning. And some days they have the breakfast, some days, most of the days, they skip the breakfast. Some days they go after the lunch hour is over and find that there is no lunch, they end up eating some biscuits. And if they find some students going to the class, well, they join them, go to the class, not even knowing as to which class they are attending, not even knowing as to who is the instructor for the course, and then they come back to the hostel, and if they don't find somebody to go along with, they don't even go to the class. Now we have these students who have obviously, of course they have run into academic difficulties, but also their routines have gone off track. Now Professor Narayanan, who used to mentor these students, used to give this suggestion to them. He used to say, I will give you a diary, please maintain a diary. Okay. Put down the date, the day, and put down the list of activities. Every day you have to do this as an assignment. That is, the student had to write down, well, I got up at 3 in the morning, I had my breakfast at 8 in the morning, and these were some of the things that he had to write in that diary. And then Professor Narayanan asked them to come every day and show them the diary. See, Professor Narayanan never passed any judgment. It is important not to pass any judgment. He never passed any judgment. He would look at the diary, and by looking at the diary, it was very clear to him, well, here is a student who is making every effort to come out of his difficulties. If you maintain the diary, it is a clear indication that you are making every effort to come out of your problems. If you are not maintaining the diary, he would encourage them to write that diary and be very sincere. But he would not pass a judgment, he would not ask the question, why did you get up late, or why did you get up early morning, why did you miss the class, etc. Nothing. He would just ask them to maintain the diary. Now you see, this served a very important purpose. It served the purpose that the student's gaze, the student was now looking at his own life, he was looking inward and looking at his own life, and after several weeks, and in fact it used to take several months for some students, they would realize that their personal life their routines have become disordered. There is a disorder in their lives, but this is a realization that has to come within. So this helped them to realize that there is a disorder in their life, and that they should now somehow put back a certain routine in their lives. And once they work towards that, having that routine in their lives, then it was very simple matter. Please, I would like to tell you that it is very simple. Once their routine comes back, it is very simple to turn their academic performance around. Okay, so this is the objective of a DAMP program, that is to help the troubled students cope with their academics, extra academics, and personal problems. Now, in order to pursue all these objectives, we carefully identify mentors for all the new entrants. Now, these mentors or these anchors are our senior students. We call them as student mentors, and they have the authority to pursue the mission of student mentor program. Our student mentors are respected, well-balanced senior students. They are good role models. They provide sound advice without any personal bias. They possess two important qualities, the quality of empathy and quality of humility. And we look for these qualities when the student, when an applicant applies for the student mentor position. What are these two qualities, empathy and humility? Empathy is required so as to put themselves in the shoes of their mentees and to build a rapport with the mentees. So empathy is very much required, and humility, to be humble enough to not to trust their own opinions, their own values, their own judgments onto the mentees. So these are two very important qualities of a student mentor program that we look for in any applicant. Our student mentors are also capable of instilling ethics in the mentees. Now, of course, you cannot talk down ethics. You cannot tell your mentee to say, okay, from now on you have to be very ethical. That's not going to happen. The only way you can instill ethics is by being ethical oneself, right? So extra precaution is taken to ensure that the applicant for the student mentor position does not himself indulge in unethical acts. Then our student mentors have significant achievements in academics and co-curricular activities. Now, when I say significant achievement in academics, I am not saying that we have a certain cutoff in their CPI. We are not saying that, okay, only those students with CPI greater than 7.5 are eligible. No, we don't say that. In fact, we have found also instances where students with lower CPI have performed very well as mentors, because these are the students who have experienced failure in their academic performance, but they have turned their academic performance around, and they turn out to be very good mentors for other students, because they can tell them as to what are the difficulties that they would get into if they follow a certain way of approach in their academics. Okay, but however, all our student mentors are academically inclined and capable of persuading others also to be academically inclined. Now coming to the organization of the Student Mentor Program. First, I'll discuss the Institute Student Mentor Program. This is a program that mentors the new entrants into the undergraduate program. Now, this is headed by 2 or 3 student mentor coordinators, and these are usually the final year students with experience and proven credentials. They are in turn assisted by a cabinet, mentor cabinet. Again, this is a student body I am talking about, student body consisting of 6 students who have 1 year of experience and who help the student mentor coordinators in planning and execution of different activities. And they in turn are assisted by a large team of 80 student mentors. 80 student mentors, each mentoring about 12 to 14 students. So therefore, we cover the entire batch of undergraduate new entrants. And these are the mentors who are selected from the 3rd year, 4th year and 5th year of the undergraduate program. The Institute Student Companion Program, as I mentioned, guides the master students, right? And this is headed by the overall coordinators, 2 or 3 overall coordinators, and you will be meeting them in these interactions. You will be meeting all these overall coordinators. Overall coordinators are senior students with experience and proven credentials. They in turn are supported by the department coordinators. In all departments, we have a department coordinator, and they in turn are assisted by a large team of 190 student companions, 190, and each mentoring about 7 new entrants into their own specialization. So therefore, a student companion is mentoring students in his own specialization and discipline. So therefore, metallurgy department, you would say, okay, somebody in steel technology, he's mentoring students in steel technology. Now, this large team of 80 ISMP mentors and about 190 ISCP companions covers the entire batch of new entrants into our undergraduate program and into our master's program. This is a group of students with deep outreach into the community of new entrants, and we firmly believe that this program has the potential to positively impact the entire batch of new entrants. So we are talking about entire batch of undergraduate students as well as the postgraduate students. Now, how is the student mentor program organized? I will just tell you about this, how is it organized and how we select the overall coordinators. The selection of overall coordinators is done in, it's a very rigorous selection. There are several layers that the applicant has to go through. The first layer is, of course, the student advertisement is released and the students are asked to apply for the position of the overall coordinators. And once they apply, there is a scrutiny of the applications, and the applications are seen and scrutinized to see that they meet the minimum qualification. Then there is a peer review, that is, there is a review that is sought from their classmates, from their department mates, from their hostel mates, right? Reviews are sought, reviews are looked at, and then there is an interview with the outgoing student mentor coordinators, outgoing 2 or 3 student mentor coordinators. There is an interview, and then there is an interview with the panel consisting of the deans of the institute as well as the student mentor coordinator, the faculty mentor coordinator. And once the panel makes this, selects and makes the recommendation, then the recommendation is approved by the director. So it goes to the director's level to approve the names of the students whom we have selected as the overall coordinator. Why does it go to the level of the director? It goes to the level of the director because these overall coordinators, they will be our members of the Senate. They are also members of the Senate. That is the kind of importance that we have given to this program. The overall coordinators of the student mentor program also members of the Senate, wherein they can deliberate on the issues that the Senate deliberates on. Okay. They are also members of our UGPC, Undergraduate Programs Committee, and as members of the Undergraduate Programs Committee, they can positively influence some of the academic programs in the institute. So that is how important, that's the kind of importance that we give to this student mentor program. And what do we look for? Next is, what do we look for in the mentor coordinator? Yes, we have selected them all right, but what did we actually look for? Well, in addition to the 2 twin qualities of empathy and humility that I just mentioned, ability to build a team. Remember here, we are only selecting, the faculty is only selecting 2 mentor coordinators, and the mentor coordinators are given the charge of building their team. And we are talking about 80 student mentors as far as ISMP team is concerned, and as far as ISCP team is concerned, we are talking about 190 companions they have to select. They have to build that team, and they have the complete responsibility of building that team. As a faculty student coordinator, I don't influence their decisions. Of course, if they need any guidance, they come to me, but otherwise it's completely their decision as to whom they select in their team. They are also expected to uphold very high ethical standards, which means they have to be ethical in all their dealings. They should possess the crisis management skills and presence of mind. See, this is very often required because many a time there is a call at midnight saying that a certain student is having some difficulties, and then the overall coordinators of the student mentor programs keep themselves awake all night because they are trying to coordinate and things. So they have to have that skill and the presence of mind, ability to deal with some issues, sensitive issues. Many a time we come across these very sensitive issues, and they have to deal with those issues very maturely. So that is what we are expecting from the mentor coordinators, student mentor coordinators. And then they have to be creative, innovative, and willing to work and take up new initiatives. How do we go about selecting the student mentors? Now, of course, there is again a 4-stage selection of the student mentors. We scrutinize the application, review the recommendations received from their mentors, obtain peer reviews, and then conduct interviews. So this is how the student mentors, a team of 80 students, are selected. But please note here, these interviews can be very rigorous. We have something like, because the student mentor program has reached a certain level where it has acquired a certain stature among the student community, that many students want to apply for this mentor position. And we have something like about 350 students applying for this mentor's position. And the overall coordinators spend several nights, because the nights are the only time they get to conduct these interviews, and they spend several nights in conducting the interviews and selecting their team. And after all, from that 350 students, they have to select about 80 students who will form their student mentor team. So it's a very rigorous and a time consuming job that they do, and of course they have been doing it very excellently so far. Of course, I will not go into all these details as to what is involved in scrutiny of applications, what is involved in recommendations from mentors, because this all will be discussed by the student volunteers when they start interacting with you in their presentation. So I will skip this and then come to this aspect of how do we assess applicants. What is it that we look for in applicants? Of course, we look for the student qualities, but how can you can't just ask a student as to, okay, are you humble? Well, we can't ask those questions, right? I mean, everybody would say, yes, I'm humble. But how do we assess an applicant? Well, assessing an applicant, we have to be careful. We have to keep a few things in mind, and this is what is suggested to the overall coordinators, that mentoring is not a science. It is not a science. It is not as if that there is a set principle by which you mentor. No, mentoring is an art, and the applicant should have this understanding that people are more important than things. That is, somewhere in the middle of the night, if you are, there is a call, well, you should be willing to set aside things because people are more important. So that is an understanding that a mentor should have. Mentoring is not an ego game, because any trace or any tinge of self-importance can actually be self-defeating in this during mentoring. Mentoring means taking on responsibility. Many students, because it has attained a certain stature, many students look upon student mentoring in terms of glamour. Okay, but actually there is hardly any glamour. It's a position of responsibility that students have. So we have to impress upon the applicants that don't look at it just as a glamorous position, but look upon this as a position of responsibility. Mentoring means setting aside your desires. Many times the mentor says, okay, well, I wish my mentee was a little bit more hardworking. I wish my mentee would listen to me more, right? But there is no point wishing. You have to be willing to work with people as they are and not as you would like them to be. Mentoring means loyalty. Mentoring means being patient, because you have to realize that it takes time to bring people around. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen just because you have given an advice. It's not going to happen that way. Mentoring means service. Mentoring is not just a job that you do over the year and maybe collect a certificate at the end. No, it is more of a service to your fellow students. Now, what is the kind of interaction that exists between mentors and mentees? That's the next question that we have. Well, actually, this interaction starts even before the new entrants arrive on campus. Even before the new entrants arrive on campus, letters, emails are sent to the new entrants, welcoming them to IIT Bombay and also introducing them to the life here at IIT Bombay. They also open an online discussion forum wherein the new entrants can post their queries and seek help and guidance if required. So these are some of the things they do even before the mentees arrive on campus. And then, after the orientation, the formal orientation event that we have in the convocation hall, wherein the director and the deans address the new entrants, then after that we have an English proficiency test, and this is administered by the Student Mentor Program. An English proficiency test wherein about all students are required to take this test, okay, and then they go through the answer scripts and then they shortlist something like about 80 students, and those 80 students who fare poorly in this test are strongly advised to undergo an 80 hours of English language training that is conducted by the British Council, and this is a training program that extends throughout the year, right. What is the role of the Student Mentor Program? Well, the Student Mentor Program assigns teaching assistants for this program, and it helps the students, the teaching assistants help the student to remain focused and motivated throughout the year, and it also helps the students to continue to practice and learn and practice their English language speaking skills outside the classroom. So this is another activity that they do as soon as the mentees arrive on campus. Okay, what is the relationship? What is the kind of interaction that exists between mentor and the mentee? Now, it is imperative that the mentee establishes a close rapport with their mentor. Very important. In fact, we impress upon the new entrants right on the day of the orientation that they already know who their mentors are and that they should establish a close rapport with their mentors. Also, we impress upon the new entrants that they cannot just depend on their mentors for everything. They should also become self-reliant, they should also become independent, right. They should not just call up the mentor for every small aspect, they should not be. They should also learn to grow independently on campus. Of course, the mentor can help the mentees with difficulties, but please note one thing, be strongly advised that mentors should not teach. Mentors are not expected to teach. So how do they help the mentees then? Well, they actually help the mentees by, they could guide the mentees to go about seeking appropriate help. Because in case the mentee says, well, I am having difficulty with this subject, the mentor could actually find out as to who is the teaching assistant for that course or who is the instructor for that course, could approach the instructor. If the mentee is feeling shy, he can approach the instructor and set up an appointment with the instructor or with the teaching assistant so that the mentee can go and seek appropriate help. But the mentor is not expected to teach the mentee, because after all, you see, our mentors are also students, and in case they have learned the concepts incorrectly, then we don't want these incorrect concepts to be taught to the mentees. So that is why we say that, well, mentors are not supposed to teach. Okay, mentor will act on any complaint of misbehavior by the senior students. Of course, misbehavior, there is hardly any ragging, we are not talking about ragging here, but any kind of a misbehavior wherein some senior student may be forcing the new entrant to do some work for him. Well, the institute has a very strict policy against that. Mentor will also ensure that no activity is forced upon the mentee, but however, if the mentor feels that participation in sports activity, cultural activity will actually benefit the mentee, then the mentor may actually persuade the mentee to take part in those activities. Mentors, as I said, are positive influences. They inspire the mentee to put in his best, inculcate good ethics by his own behavior through example, inculcate good values and ethics in the mentee. Mentors maintain confidentiality and professionalism at all times. So this is very important. If the mentors don't maintain confidentiality about even simple things like, well, maybe a mentee needs financial help, and if he goes to the mentor and says, well, I need financial help, can you help me locate a few, get me some information about some assistantships or scholarships? Well, this information is not, why should the mentor be spreading this information to his other mentors? It's not required. So in fact, mentors are required to maintain full confidentiality and professionalism at all times. You see, mentors, when and where to meet the mentor, right? When and where to meet the mentor is left entirely to the discretion of the mentees. The mentor will of course make all efforts to meet the mentees at critical junctures in the first year, critical junctures such as first few weeks before the first few weeks of the starting of the semester, the first round of quizzes, before the mid-semester examination, before the end semester examination, before some cultural activities like the performance arts festival and so on. Mentors are our senior students who volunteer their time for the Student Mentor Program, and of course the parents are invited to discuss their ward's performance with the mentors. So the parents are also told as to who is the mentor for their ward, and the parents are welcome to discuss their performance with their ward's performance with their mentors. Okay, now From all this, you would have probably gathered that, well, a mentor is there to provide some help, a mentor is there to provide some guidance, a mentor is there to provide some information. But I want to tell you something. Mentoring is not just providing information, providing some guidance. If it was just that, you would not call him a mentor, you would call him a resource person. Then what is mentoring? See, mentoring, and I like this phrase a lot, mentoring is a process. It is not just one-off thing, it's a process. It takes a process which takes time. Mentoring is a process of walking along beside. Walking along beside is not literal meaning. Don't take it in the literal, it has a figurative meaning here. Walk along beside means that you are there for the mentee, right? You are there for the mentee and you are walking along with the mentee means that you are not walking ahead of the mentee. If you were walking ahead of the mentee, that means you are laying down a principle, a path of principles and asking the mentee to follow in your footsteps. That is not what is mentoring. Nor is it standing behind the mentee and asking him to follow certain directions. That is also not mentoring. Asking him, okay, you come back from your lectures at 5 o'clock, you play for 1 hour, then again have your dinner, then start studying, etc. Well, that is also not mentoring. So what is mentoring? Mentoring is being there for the mentee, right? With the aim of helping that mentee achieve his or her potential. Now, again, let's go over this. Mentoring is the process of walking along beside the mentee with the aim of helping the mentee to achieve his or her potential. Whose potential? The mentee's potential, not the mentor's potential. To help the mentee achieve the mentee's potential. Now, I had a very interesting case a couple of years back. There was a mentor who came up to me and said, "Sir, I want to discuss about my mentee with you." I said, "Okay, please come." So he comes and sits in my office and then he says, "You see, sir, my mentee is very brilliant. Okay, my mentee is brilliant, he's outstanding. I never seen a student like this before. And in fact, in the very first semester, he's got A grades in all courses except in one course where he ended up with the AB grade. But in all courses, he ended up with the AA grade." I said, "That is very good." Then he says, "Sir, but there is a problem." I said, "What is the problem?" He says, "See, the problem is, sir, in my first semester, I hardly managed to get 7 points. Now, do you think I am the right mentor for this mentee, or do you want to change the mentor for him?" Then I had to explain to him and say, you know, a mentor is one, you have realized that your mentee is outstanding and you have done a great job of helping him achieve his potential. Now, in the next semester, I think you should work a little harder and see that your mentee actually achieves the full 10 points in that semester. And then I told him, you see, a mentor may be more accomplished than the mentee, or a mentor may be less accomplished than the mentee. But what is important is that the mentor should help the mentee achieve his potential, that is a mentee's potential. So in that sense, the mentor also had done an outstanding job with that mentee. Okay, now what are the benefits? So far I have told you only about the benefits to the mentee, but does the mentor also get some benefits out of this program? Well, the mentoring a freshman, mentoring a new entrant in the program is an opportunity for the development of the mentor and also for the development of the mentee, both intellectually and emotionally. Mentoring allows the mentors to share their life experiences with their mentees who wish to follow a path similar to theirs. Now, of course, when our students join as mentors, they don't have any training, right? I mean, they do not know how to go about it. The first thing they ask me is, "Sir, I'm glad that I become a mentor. I wanted to become a mentor, but is there something that you can tell me how to go about mentoring?" Now, then I tell them, well, mentoring is not a science, it's more an art, and we believe that you have the potential to be a good mentor, that's why you have been selected. But at the same time, I offer them a few tips here, how to go about mentoring. The first tip that I offer is develop and sustain trust. Because after all, trust is the foundation for mentoring. If there is no trust between the mentor and the mentee, then it is not possible to do any mentoring. So trust is the foundation. So you have to develop that trust. And if you are going to develop the trust, that means you have to have an effective, you have to establish a line of communication, and you have to impress upon the mentee that you are there for him or her. And of course, you have to keep whatever transpires between you and the mentee, you have to keep it confidential, because if you don't keep it confidential, the moment your mentee realizes that you are revealing whatever he has told you to other people. Not secrets, but I'm just telling you, if the mentee has revealed that he has difficulties interacting with his parents, or he's having difficulty interacting with his brother, or if he's having some difficulties with his girlfriend, whatever it is. But that is an information that you don't want to spread to other mentors, right? And so the moment he comes to know, he will stop, he'll go into a shell and he will not interact with you anymore. So important thing is to develop and sustain trust, which means that you have whatever transpires between you and the mentee, you have to keep it very confidential. You have to be a friend. Don't put on the role that you are a substitute parent for the mentee. No, if you are not a substitute parent, you are not a big brother, you are not a big sister for the mentee, you are not even a figure of authority. Don't put on a t-shirt saying that you are a student mentor, because that becomes a barrier between you and the mentee. So we impress upon him that, well, you have to be a friend primarily a friend to your mentee, and focus on establishing a warm bond of friendship with your mentee. Be positive, very important. Be positive at all times, because no matter how many examinations, how many quizzes, how many examinations have gone badly for the mentee, no matter how many courses he has failed, you have to be positive. You have to say that, well, it is possible to overcome. There is no question of saying, well, it is going to be difficult, etc. No, always be positive. Always be positive in your dealing with your mentee. And sometimes we also say that, well, allow your mentee to show off. Okay, he may be good at something, he may not be very good in academics, he may be good in something. Allow him sometimes and encourage him to take up those hobbies, etc. And give him some, that will lift his self-esteem. And so the tips are basically these are very simple tips. Develop and sustain trust, be a friend to your mentee, be positive always, and most importantly, we ask them not to look upon this as a burden. You're not join the mentor program and don't be burdened by the mentor program. You're here, enjoy your role as a mentor. And of course, there is a lot of joy, and they derive this joy at the end of the year. You see, mind you, at the end of the year, they are not only given a certificate, but in that certificate, behind that, there are some comments made by their mentees. And some of these comments are beautiful. And when the mentor sees those comments, actually he is overcome with emotions, and actually you can see his eyes getting moist, because these are the tears of joy that he derives when the mentee actually thanks him from the heart for having helped him overcome some of the problems. These are some of the tips, and of course we have a very strong training program for our mentors, and this has been put together by our student counseling services. This is a training program which is conducted by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences for our mentors, and this is a 2-day program. The first day, I think they go through listening and attending skills, how to build a rapport with your mentee. Then there are questioning skills, because how do you question? You have to ask an open-ended question to your mentee, and at the same time not make any judgments. In fact, a good mentor never makes any judgment on his mentee. Day 2, how to go about solving some problem cases. How do you escalate the case? When do you say that, well, here is a case that I cannot handle any further, or I cannot deal with this any further, I need to take it up to a professional such as a counselor. So when do you escalate a case? And then also, please note, sometimes self-care for the mentors. If the mentor is getting too involved with the problems of the mentees, then he has to also, his emotional health will also start getting affected. So therefore, self-care for the mentees. How do you take care of your own emotional health when dealing with a very anxious mentee? This also, although we are asking them to build a good rapport, but in the process, the mentor's health also should not get influenced by that. Now coming to the future of the student mentor program, I would just like to share with you some of the feedback. We take a feedback at the end of the year and ask the mentees as to how well the student mentor program, or how do you think the student mentor program has helped you. One of the questions that we ask is, how did you find your mentor's advice? How did you find his advice? Whatever advice that has been given to you by your mentor. Well, 98% says that it has been very useful to us. This advice has been very useful. How has your mentor made a positive impact on your life? I mean, I think that is, but yes, students are able to judge. They say that yes, my outlook has changed due to the interaction with my mentor, and 97% of them say that this has had a positive impact on my life. Did you find the student companion program helpful? Again, 97% of them, these are master students that we are talking about, ISCP program, and 97% of the students say yes, it has helped us a lot. Now, looking at the future, I would say students these days are under tremendous stress. they are perhaps under more stress than what we were when we were the students here. Because when we were students here, all that we did was, well, appear for the tests, appear for the examinations, and then as soon as the examination is over, we took the first train and went away to our hometowns and enjoyed our vacation there thoroughly for 2 months or 3 months, and then came back here and started our semester again. So looking back, I feel we were under less stress, but students these days are under tremendous stress. In fact, the other day when I was conducting a lab to the second year BTech students, one of the students comes to me and says, sir, can I just do some kind of a project during the semester with you? I was quite surprised. I said, you are in the second year, what is it, why is it that you want to do a project? And then the student tells me, sir, I find that there are other students in other departments or in his hostel who are also doing a small project, and therefore I feel that I too should do. You see, the peer pressure is beginning to act on those students. And then I told them, well, okay, you go through this course, and once you have acquired certain knowledge, then you can be in a position to do a certain project. But you know, they are under great stress. Students these days are under great stress because there are plenty of opportunities available to them. They can do projects, they can do summer internships, then they can try out different activities. Some of the students go and write some examinations which are conducted by other organizations, but all the time the students feel that they have to be doing something, and that's because the entire milieu is such, entire student community is such, which is trying to do something which will add to their value addition that is taking place. So of course academics is important, and in fact most important, because that's the primary reason why they are here in IIT Bombay. However, the true importance of academics lies in how well it allows the student to develop into a confident individual. So what is the Student Mentor Program doing? The Student Mentor Program is playing a very vital role in the lives of students here on campus. And in fact, this is an observation made by our Board of Governors in their 200th meeting, and I will read this, and this is a very good observation. The Institute Student Mentor Program has made substantial strides in the last few years and seems destined to play a vital role in altering the student attitudes and therefore in enriching the student life here on campus. So this is all about Student Mentor Program that I wanted to discuss with you. I would now like to give you other examples of faculty-student collaborative activities. As I said, we would like to involve students in activities which promote institutional objectives. What are the other institutional objectives? Delivering quality instruction is an institutional objective. Promoting research and development is another institutional objective. Providing career opportunities to students is an institutional objective. Nurturing creativity and innovation among the students is an institutional objective. Now clearly, you see, we have a large number of institutional objectives, and the faculty cannot be involved. Faculty has got too many things to be deal with. What do? We involve the students, and under the guidance of one faculty member, the students are helping us to achieve these institutional objectives. So let us look at some of these institutional objectives. Delivering quality instruction in our courses. How are the students involved in this? Almost many, in fact, I wouldn't say almost, I would say many students who join our postgraduate program are awarded either a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. A teaching assistantship entails 8 hours of work per week. A research assistantship, on the other hand, entails about 20 hours of work per week. And these teaching assistants or the research assistants, they assist us in preparing our presentation material. So before we go to the class, the presentation material is prepared by our teaching assistants, who are students, who are postgraduate students. They help us in conducting these tutorials. These are small groups where the students, under the guidance of the teaching assistants, actually practice doing problems. These are the tutorials. They help us in conducting those tutorials. They help us in drafting questions, and sometimes because sometimes we as instructors, we would like to give an opportunity for the TA to become creative. So we ask the TA to draft questions for the examination, and of course we moderate it. In case the questions are too easy, then we make them difficult. In case they are difficult, we make them a little easy. In case the questions are long, we truncate them, put them into 2 parts. They help us in invigilating the examination. They help us in grading the assignments. They help us in grading the quizzes. They help us in grading even our end semester examination. The teaching assistants help us do that. They provide feedback to the instructor. This is very, very critical, because many a time the instructor is not aware as to whether how well the students are receiving the course. It is possible that the instructor has gone over a certain topic very quickly and the students have not followed that topic, and it is a teaching assistant who is sitting at the back of the course comes to the instructor and says, sir, can you please go over this a little slowly, because the students have expressed their view that they are finding it difficult to follow this particular topic. But most importantly, at IIT Bombay, please note, the faculty and the TAs form and function as a single instructional unit. They form and function as a single instructional unit. It is not as if that the TA is doing something on his own, or TA is teaching something on his own, or TAs have decided that, well, these are the problems that the students should practice. No, they form and function as a team. In fact, there is a session that the instructor has with the TAs wherein he discusses as to what is to be done in the next few lectures, discusses what is to be done in the next few tutorials, discusses with them also as to how the papers are to be graded, how the papers are to be set and how they are to be graded, etc. They form and function as a single instructional unit. Of course, for the students in the class, there is a lot of benefit from this TA program. It helps them to clear their doubts in an informal setup, because many students find asking a question in large class, they find it very difficult to ask that question because they feel inhibited. They can approach the TAs, the students can also approach the TAs if the faculty member who is the instructor is not available during that week. They can approach the TAs and seek help. For the postgraduate students who work as TAs, they are also benefited from this TA program. It helps them to revise the concepts that they have learnt earlier, that is long time ago when they themselves were doing their BTech. It helps them to revise those concepts. They begin appreciating the different dimensions. They begin appreciating a different dimension that emerges when they are now asked to answer those questions or asked to explain those concepts. A different dimension emerges and they are now able to see that in a different light. So these are some of the advantages to the students as well as to the teaching assistants. I think I will skip this slide because there is a slide which talks about how these subject TAs, what are the different functions that they do, and the student volunteers are going to go over these things in detail. The students also help us in promoting research and development. How do they help us in promoting R&D? The research scholars of course form the backbone of the institute. They help us set up the lab and maintain the lab. They help us in acquiring new instruments, help us in maintaining research facilities available in the lab, help us in familiarizing the students with the lab and their work, and of course they guide the bachelor students, the master students, the interns who come in the summer in their research projects as well. Students do these research projects, and these are nothing but small stepping stones for research. For the faculty member, these are small stepping stones, and some of these projects are the BTech projects, these self-learning projects, the dual degree projects, the MTech projects, and these projects have got certain credits associated with them. The students have to earn credits, and these are some of the ways by which they can earn the credits. The student of course selects the topic, but it is a faculty member who guides the student on these different topics. It helps the students gain valuable research experience, but at the same time it helps the faculty make further progress, small progress, by doing through these BTech projects, etc. It helps the faculty to make further progress in his research goals. Now coming to this aspect, well, we have different ways in which we involve students. There is an undergraduate research award that we offer. This is actually a credential that is given for commendable work done by the undergraduate students. It is called the URA 01, which is for satisfactory work that they do during the semester. URA 02 and 03, which are actually for our BTech students and the dual degree students, for truly exceptional work in quality and extent, and it's an opportunity for them to earn extra credits in addition to what they have earned through the coursework. Then we have the summer research project, summer research internship projects. Then we have the research internships, and research internships are primarily meant for students from other institutions to come and do work during the summer. Students also help us in organizing symposium, they help us in organizing the open days, help us in organizing the Tech Connect. Now that has become very popular over several years now. Tech Connect is part of the Tech Fest, and it is in the Tech Connect that we showcase the R&D that's been developed here at IIT Bombay. Then coming to another institutional objective, providing career opportunities. I think I will not take too much time, I will just go over these things quickly. Providing career opportunities, we have a placement cell and we have a career cell on campus. Now, You see, the placement cell has got a few faculty members, and student representatives jointly handle many of the critical activities of the placement. You see, in IIT Bombay, the placement is handled by a cell which is headed by a faculty member. Under his guidance, it is the students who handle all the activities related to placements. What are the activities that they do? They reach out to companies, they schedule and execute the placement related activities. The scheduling is also done by the students, organizing is done by the students. Carrying out the official related communication with the companies, with the recruiters, is also done by the students, of course under the guidance of a faculty member. So it is a placement cell which tries to match the recruiter expectations with the student aspirations. The students organize several preparatory activities. They organize resume making workshops for the students who are going to be sitting for the placements. They organize the sessions to enhance the communication skills, organize workshop to promote interview skills, organize the refresher lectures on various technical objectives. It's a refresher course. They might have learned those technical details in some of those earlier courses, but these are refresher courses which are held before they face the interview. They organize talks by alumni. The alumni come and discuss their experience of working in different companies. They organize counseling sessions to beat the stress during the placement season, and this in fact can be a very acute problem during the placement, because many of the students, they get very worried if they are not placed within the first week. There is a stiff competition in the first week, and if they don't get placed, then they are feeling the stress, and therefore there is a counseling session that is organized to beat that stress. The students organize internships. The students also organize guidance sessions for those students who wish to apply to universities abroad for higher studies. Again, you see professor in charge. There is a professor in charge. There is a faculty member at the top, and he is assisted by 5 placement managers. 5 placement managers, mind you, they are all students. 5 placement managers, and then in turn, these company coordinators, department placement coordinators, associate placement coordinators, they are all students. So it's a large team of students which is actually helping us with these placement activities. And then of course we have the entrepreneurship shell, and these are things that the students are going to discuss with you in greater detail, but I just want to point out here that entrepreneur cell aims to develop the interaction between the students, working professionals, aspiring and existing entrepreneurs, the angel investors, venture capital firms and corporates. Entrepreneurship cell promotes entrepreneurship among the students, so that is what it's all about. And of course, this particular cell has one very, they have one great recognition from, they have got the NEN Achievement Award, and their yearly flagship event is the E-Summit, which brings together leading entrepreneurs of the country to this event. And this is the structure of the career cell, and you see in the structure of the career cell also, this is entirely organized by the students. All these positions are populated by the students. And these are some of the career cell activities. They will discuss with you more in greater detail. I'm just giving you a broad outline of what the students are doing and how they are helping us. Then nurturing creativity and innovation. Under this, I put down 2 bullets here. One is technology and development supervised learning, and the second is STAB, which stands for Student Technical Activity Body. TDSL. Sitara, you might have actually seen Sitara on your way here. Sitara is a center for technology alternatives for rural areas. It ensures that the benefits of technology are not just confined to the urban. It's not just meant for the urban people, but it also can be extended to the rural areas as well. The Sitara offers a sequence of these supervised learning courses, SLU, supervised learning, SLC, sorry, under technology and development umbrella at the undergraduate level. It's an opportunity for the students to work on some live projects. It could be urban or rural, which involves direct interaction and interface with the larger society. Then again, this is something that will be explained to you by our student volunteers, the structure of the SPDSL program at IIT Bombay, and you will see here how the students are directly involved in carrying out these projects. Coming to the STAB, the Student Technical Activity Board, it helps the students network within their interest circles and with the faculty concerned. It encourages the student to explore engineering through hands-on approach and fosters an innovation by providing sustainable and conducive environment for the innovators. Again, you notice here that there is a faculty advisor for the STAB, but it is, most of the activities of the STAB are handled by the students. There is a general secretary, the general secretary is the one who is handling the various clubs here, technical term, the Tinkerers Lab, and Tinkerers Lab is something that you will be taken to, or you must express an interest to go to that place because it's quite interesting. This where the students actually sit down and they can play with the things that they have, and it actually promotes a lot of innovation and creative thinking. I think with that I will stop here. I think I have gone past the time allotted to me. With that, thank you very much for your patient here.
So I was thinking that at the beginning you started a discussion saying that the faculty student ratio is not too high at IIT Bombay. Now because student mentors are not allowed to teach the mentee, how the student mentors are going to compensate this problem?
No, student mentors are not expected to teach their mentees. Yes, I stand by that. What I was trying to say is that it is our teaching assistants. Teaching assistants are our senior postgraduate students. They are the ones who are going to assist us in our teaching the courses. So the mentors don't teach, the teaching assistants teach. Okay. You followed that? I think.
Okay. No, actually you started with student mentors, so I thought student mentors are going to.
No, later on I was talking about how we involve students in effective instruction. So that is where I brought in this example of postgraduate students helping us in effective instruction.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
That is online available for IIT Bombay only, or it will be provided to for us also later on?
I think TDSL, it stands for Technology and Development Supervised Learning, not Tata.
No, that Tata program for training for.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, for the training for the mentors.
Yes.
Yeah, Tata Institute of Social Sciences.
Yes.
This is our counseling team has tied up with the TISS to offer this program to the students of IIT Bombay. Yeah.
Can it be available for later for us also?
I think we could just discuss this with our counseling team and see if it can be opened up to students from other institutions as well. I think we could explore that. Yeah, we could explore that. Yeah.
See, I thought I should answer that question because it's a very important, in TechWhip 3 Kite, in the knowledge incubation under TechWhip and TechWhip 3, we expect to be conducting programs for faculty like all of you and also students of TechWhip institutions. And there is a provision for both. So in fact, we would want your cooperation and your participation, your assistance and your initiative in making these things happen. So it's good that you're mentioning this because there's a provision for such things in TechWhip 3. TDSL is an example, even other kinds of programs which should be done for faculty and students, right? And it's very important that we actually make use of this provision under TechWhip Kite, and all of you need to make it instrumental. So, maybe you should carry this with you, that many of the things which Professor Prabhu discussed, which talk about faculty-student collaboration and for achieving institutional objectives, is actually going to be carried by you, and you're going to work with us to make it happen at your institution. And even some of the programs that he mentioned, like TDSL, STAB, or some of a mentor program particularly, or this student mentoring, student companion system, these things in a suitably adapted way need to be carried by you to your institutions and made a reality there. In fact, in the test that we are going to administer to you in this course, we are going to ask you what you have carried away from this exposition and how you are going to, with your vision and imagination, carry it to your institutions and make it a reality there.
Thank you.
So with that, then we must thank Professor Prabhu for a very valuable exposition. And now I guess we could then proceed. The next session starts immediately, I believe. Is that right? There's no break in between, to my knowledge.